Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome, you're in for a treat. Long-time viewer, sit tight because I've got some wild topics to drag you down the rabbit hole. Forget everything you think you know, we're literally starting from scratch. Today, we've got breaking UAP news, fresh rabbit holes, and a reality check that's gonna get weird. Let's get into it.
Jamie, pull up an image of it. It's very strange. There's this orb that has all these weird writings on it. It's made out of some alloy of aluminum that's 3 times stronger than military-grade aluminum.
Boogosphere.
And they apparently have carbon dated to 12,560 years old.
Holy.
Look at that thing. Look at the drawings on it.
Looks like a microchip.
Language, yeah. And the center of it looks exactly like a microchip. What is that?
What is that?
Who's making something that's a beautiful sphere like that? That's 3 times harder than modern aluminum.
And 12,000 years ago with no tools, no nothing. Just,
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Pilots witnessed a cluster of UFOs over the Pacific Ocean around 43,000 feet. Check it out.
Look. You see that? Oh, yeah. What?
Yeah, what the hell? Oh, it's like a perfect one. What?
The pilot's witness statement goes like this. So I'm a pilot, and this is not the first occurrence of these lights in the sky that I've witnessed flying along the west coast. This video I captured, however, is the best footage I've got so far. The video is from the 20th of November, which is this month, flying over Oakland at around 43,000 foot, looking west over the Pacific Ocean. The lights appeared much higher than our altitude. Could be military, but Oakland Center said there was no active events in that direction that they know of, right? So again, the 20th of November, and this is around 8:28 p.m, location 100 miles off the west of Oakland, California. Amount of pilots that are coming forward this year and all kind of reporting their own sort of experiences, and activity has only increased since the start of the year as well, and with more pilots coming forward, and we've had probably about 4 collisions with strange metallic objects on planes this year alone, let alone last year as well. What do you guys think?
For over 70 years, the world has speculated what happened in Roswell, New Mexico that night.
Yeah, whatever. I think it's time to finally clear up all this stupid Roswell. If you stick with me for the next 5 minutes, you'll see a lot of secrets, and know more about the subject than just about anybody else. To understand Roswell, you need to understand the end of World War II. As the Allies advanced through Europe, they started to find secret German aircraft in the facilities they were capturing. The Americans also captured German test pilots. Many of these Luftwaffe pilots were sent to the American concentration camp, POW camp for Germans, at Fort Bliss in Texas. These Luftwaffe pilots were given a deal. Their family would be given amnesty if they worked with the Americans in a group called Watson's Wizards. At the end of the war, this group of pilots was sent throughout Europe to take the German secret aircraft that were captured and fly them back to Cherbourg, France, where they were loaded onto an aircraft carrier called the HMS Reaper and brought to New Jersey. This was an early part of Operation Paperclip, where they brought over German scientists and gave them lives here in America so they could build our military-industrial complex. Specifically, this was called Operation Lusty for Luftwaffe Secret Technology, and the naval portion of it was called Operation Seahorse. The Americans took German secret experimental aircraft, test pilots, and scientists, brought them over, and then spread them throughout the country to various military bases and test facilities. A lot of the test pilots and secret aircraft went to what became Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, which figures very prominently in UFO lore. But I think the most interesting planes that made it over and then disappeared were the Horton Flying Wings. These flying wings, built by the Horton brothers starting in the 1930s, could blow the doors off anything that we had. This is a document you can go read on the CIA's archive called German High-Speed Airplanes and Design Developments from August of 1945. This document lists the specifications for a Horton HO-229, which was a jet-powered version of this aircraft, and we know that at least one functioning example of this craft was brought over during Operation Seahorse. The speed is listed at 590 miles an hour, while the fastest thing that we had was a P-51 Mustang that could top out around 450. And the ceiling, the elevation that this plane could fly was 52,500 feet, while everything else topped out around 40,000. So basically, this jet-powered flying wing was 25% faster and higher than anything we had in the skies. This is where things get interesting and relevant to the Roswell incident. The working version of the Horton flying wings disappeared, but we do know that the group that they were given to study and back engineer was Northrop. See, the guy that ran Northrop, Jack Northrop, had been a fanboy of the Horton brothers since the 1930s, when he was trying to develop and back engineer his own version of the Horton flying wings that they had brought out years earlier. At the same time that Jack Northrop was getting his hands on some of that sweet German tech, we know that Werner von Braun was starting up our rocketry program, which later became NASA, at White Sands in New Mexico. And we know that the German scientists and test pilots were being congregated around various facilities and military installations to keep them away from the public, and one of these clusters was White Sands. Within the White Sands Proving Grounds, there is a facility called the Northrop Strip. This airstrip was mysteriously built in the 1940s and kept off maps until the 1960s, and the backstory of it is sus. In this interesting article from the Holloman Air Force Base official website, it states that the Northrop Strip was used by Northrop Aviation in the 1940s to test military target drones, and in 1976 NASA selected the Strip as the site for its shuttle pilot training. The craziest anomaly here is that this unknown Army airfield had some of, if not the longest runways in the world. This website by an aviation historian states that the Northrop Strip wasn't even being shown on aviation sectional charts in 1961, that the earliest time it shows up is the June 1965 Roswell sectional chart, and that the airfield is noted as having a 32,000-foot-long unpaved runway. That is a 6-mile-long runway. As a point of reference, the SR-71 Blackbird spy plane that held all the altitude and speed records flew out of Beale Air Force Base off a 2.2-mile-long runway. People that are familiar with the infamous Area 51, it's often touted as having the world's longest runway, and that runway is also 6 miles long. So I'll ask you, what the hell were they flying in the 1940s that required a 6-mile-long airstrip? Oh, and it doesn't have just one airstrip, it has two. One goes north-south and the other goes east-west. Most plane crashes occur during the takeoff or landing stages of a flight, and when you see where the east-west runway from this airfield is pointed, it'll all click. As we pull out on the map of the Northrop Strip, we see that 100 miles away in a direct straight line is the location of the Roswell crash. It would make sense to me that if you were testing an experimental aircraft that went around 600 miles an hour and you took off from that airstrip and something went wrong in 10 to 15 minutes, you would crash in that general location. So let's take a look at what we know. We know that Northrop was back engineering the Horton designs. We know that he had an airstrip, a secret airstrip, that was pointed directly at Roswell and was only a hop, skip, and a jump away. We also know that there were Germans all over the area, in White Sands and at the Roswell Army Air Base in their German POW camp. And we know that those German scientists and test pilots were getting sweetheart deals to continue on the experimentation on these secret aircraft. So are there any Horton aircraft that look like what supposedly crashed at Roswell, or UFOs in general? Yup. This is the Horton 10 from 1944, a triangular design with a forward cockpit, and it looks suspiciously like the later reportings of the design of the craft from Roswell. And this is Kenneth Arnold, who in 1947 reported witnessing a fleet of UFOs flying over Mount Rainier, only what he reported was not flying saucers, they were flying wings. Some of the Horton craft looked downright alien, including this Horton 13 shown here in flight. Some of these craft flew so high that the pilots had to wear an early version of a spacesuit. Now, do you think if you saw somebody dressed like this crashed in a completely alien-looking aircraft in the middle of the desert, you'd think they were Martians? And people can come out and say things about the memory metal that was supposedly found on the crash site, but memory metal like nitinol was actually developed in the 1940s by Battelle in the Air Force and Oak Ridge National Laboratories. We also shouldn't forget that the wreckage from Roswell was taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, then Wright Field in Ohio. And as I told you earlier in the video, a lot of the test pilots and scientists from Paperclip and Operation Lusty came over and were put at Wright Field. So is it kind of making sense now that this doesn't have to be an alien event? That there were human technologies and human programs going on in that exact area that could account for what happened at Roswell? What I'm saying very specifically is that I don't believe that Roswell was an alien event. And now maybe you won't get caught up in any more propaganda.
So what do you think? Did this guy just single-handedly debunk the entire Roswell conversation? Because honestly, it sounds like he might have, but as always, we're never going to know the full truth. There are endless theories out there, probably one for every single person who's ever been invested in this topic. Personally, I don't literally put any weight or much at all into the classic Roswell story. Not because I think everyone's wrong, but because I've got my own, let's call it a unique angle on the whole UAP and alien conversation. But I want to hear from you. Are you on the fence? Do you think something really went down in Roswell? Or are you in this guy's camp and think it was just a military operation gone sideways? Drop your thoughts down below. I'm curious where you stand.
This is a creepy urban legend case surrounding a man named Caden Sullivan. After being declared deceased, he woke up and started walking around.
Don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you see.
Yeah, that is absolutely horrifying. The legend goes on and said that he even had his organs removed, and yet he was still able to wake up and walk around. Also, he suffered third-degree burns all over his body. Y'all, this is so freaky. I don't know. I think it is just an urban legend, but still, this is horrifying.
These videos come so few and far in between, but when they do come, they instantly go viral, and there's a specific reason for it, and that all centers around Bigfoot. This footage was captured by a man named Kyle Campbell on around November 24th. He was parked on a logging road near Bella in the central coast of BC, Canada, when he saw something at the corner of his eye and thankfully started recording. And what he captures may be some clear footage of an actual Bigfoot. Take a look at this video, comment below, tell me what you think.
Most people think Bigfoot is a myth until you catch him on camera. Many people believe the following video I'm getting ready to show you is proof of the existence of Bigfoot. This video is a little bit older, but it's still pretty clear, and people have yet to explain what they captured. I always like to say it is possible it's a hoax. There's a lot of fake videos and things out there, that's for sure. The reason there are never clear images, the reason there is always fuzzy pictures and video, I don't think that's coincidence. I think that's by design. And this video here could be the best we ever get.
I I'd have to disagree a bit there. I wouldn't say that's completely accurate. Most people don't believe in Bigfoot to begin with, and seeing something that looks like Bigfoot in a random video definitely isn't enough to convince me. We've seen countless Bigfoot clips over the years, and most of them get debunked pretty quickly. And I'm going to be straight up with you, right? With the amount of Bigfoot footage out there, if any of it was solid proof, we'd know by now. Instead, we're still stuck with this same question. Is Bigfoot actually out there, or is it just another urban legend that refuses to die?
When the news is not showing you something, that's when you need to pay attention even more. This looks fake behind me, but it's not. The WAR between Russia and Ukraine has gotten so much worse. This right here is in Russia, near the Black Sea. And there's a whole bunch of videos coming out. We're not even talking about the fact we have all this stuff ready right outside Venezuela, and they're talking about a land entry, a land invasion in the next few days possibly. And look, don't forget, we possibly had Russia around our coast, the United States, here. Maybe it makes sense why Germany just restarted the draft. Okay, now drafts, and then we'll get to Russia. Germany has just reinstated the automatic draft for all males, even females 18 years or above, to go ahead and get their physicals. Remember at the beginning of the video I mentioned some weird signal over Europe? This is the same place, air defense in Russia. I don't feel like I need to even say what kind of building this is. Like, the videos coming out over the last few weeks have just been so freaking heavy. Like, there's a lot of stuff. Of course, it's always the innocent people who suffer, right? And like, are y'all aware there's been like 100 volcanoes that went off in the last week and a half? This was one that just woke up in Ethiopia, and all of them were running out towards it because they didn't even think it was possible. But again, the volcanoes have been going off everywhere. Remember the mention of last days in Acts 2:19? Signs in the heavens above and on the earth, fire, blood, vapor, smoke. It's getting revelatic.
Layla, come here. No, wait! Stop!
The scenes are heart-stopping. Vehicles narrowly missing children, speeding by school buses with the stop arm out and lights flashing. This car nearly hitting 2 children waiting for the bus in Indiana earlier this year. And as more school districts begin classes across the country, a company called Bus Patrol is using AI-powered cameras on more than 40,000 buses in 22 states to catch vehicle violations. The Lower Merion School District outside Philadelphia is using the cameras this school year.
That stop sign comes out, those cameras start recording.
All 135 school buses in their fleet now outfitted with the cameras.
We're hoping we see no violations because that would be safest for kids, but realistically, our expectation is we're going to start seeing a lot of them then.
They took us on a routine bus route to demonstrate how it works. Oh, we got a bunch of cars. According to police, once a violation is identified on the camera,
Now, I'm not exactly a fan of living in a surveillance state, as you can imagine, and I'm not saying we do, okay? Putting that out there, that would be a silly thing to claim in a YouTube video in this day and age. But this is the kind of surveillance technology I can actually get behind. This one has real-world implications, and it directly affects children's safety. So for me, this is one of those rare cases where I'd completely support implementing something like this, you know, because if it saves children's lives, yeah, that's a no-brainer, at least to me. But speaking of life-saving, let's get into some medical and health rabbit holes and conspiracies next. Check it out.
Would you drink this for $1 million?
No, I am not drinking this for $1 million. You are literally asking me if I would die for that money. This is a very basic slideshow that first shows an older wooden box with this strange wax vial full of liquid, and upon closer inspection, we can barely make out the words here, hydrofluoric acid. But first off, hydrofluoric acid has industrial applications used for things like etching glass, stone, and cleaning metal. But it's an extremely dangerous acid. If you spill it on your skin, it penetrates deep into your tissue, and it might not be immediately painful, but it causes severe burns. So if you were to ingest it, the tissues in your mouth and digestive system would be severely damaged, but on top of that, it also throws off your electrolyte balance and can cause cardiac arrest if you were to survive the horrible damage that you would get. It is really not an acid.
Every cell in your body has eyes. Every cell in your body has eyes that not only see the light, but respond to it accordingly. And that's going on throughout your whole body. We know scientifically now is that about a third of the calories or a third of the energy that our body produces has to do with the food we eat. 2/3 comes directly from light. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, if you went to Switzerland, they would have people laying out naked on top of the highest mountains to get as much light as possible to heal all kinds of awful conditions, tuberculosis, all kinds of amazing conditions having to do with light. Every physiological function is light dependent. That we cannot live without light. And most of the energy our body creates is from light. So one thing is, get outside every.
This is a real human brain. And spinal cord. And it would be positioned in my head like this. Front of the brain, back of the brain, coming down, hanging down as the spinal cord. And these are the nerves that are actually going to go down into your lower extremity. So all the information that's going to go down into your lower extremity to control your body is controlled, and the sensory information is coming in through those nerve fibers.
Looks like a bunch of wires.
It does. Well, you know, we are quite a well-designed machine in its own way. The difference is we are organic, we are biological. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make as a society is we think ourselves as a machine, push it. Well, you can do that with a computer. You plug it in and it stays on until you turn it off or it blows up. We have to go to sleep. It's okay. We won't hurt it.
Wow.
We hope.
Gosh.
Uh-huh. Beautiful. Our design, such a masterpiece. We are this massive conglomeration of 50 trillion molecular geniuses making up our form. Beautiful.
It's so crazy that every single person listening right now has one of these.
Yes.
It's processing my voice as you're hearing my voice.
That's right.
And it is this, for anyone that has never felt a brain before, which I imagine is most of you, it is like this very, very soft but dense, sort of tofu-y, how would you describe the feeling?
Pork roast.
Pork roast.
Cool. Can you give me a sec?
Alan, we are so...
Around a third of adults and teens are sleep deprived during the week and then try and make up for it on the weekends, but the evidence is showing that might not be enough. See, we need sleep so our brains can repair themselves, conserve energy, and carry out vital functions like clearing out waste and consolidating memories. But when you're sleep deprived, that interrupts those processes, especially when it happens regularly. Now, unlike the original poster mentioned, just one odd night of sleep can be recovered in about 24 to 48 hours, but when there's chronic sleep deprivation, especially when the brain's developing, it can take at least a week or maybe longer. I say that because there's this idea of sleep debt where those lost hours can be put into some kind of sleep bank reserve, and if you just pay them back, your brain will go back to normal, but that might not always be the case. Like if you have that sleep deprivation when your brain is developing, then some changes to its architecture might be permanent. But for most people, it's a good idea to try and get that 7 to 9 hours every single day. How much do you get?
Oh, well, I'm pretty much cooked then. Oh, thanks, internet. Hey, by the way, I release a video every single day, and if you want to make sure you're kept up to date and in the loop and here at ground zero every time I release a new episode, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. And if you want to show some additional support, you can just hit that like button and leave a positive comment. It does a lot to help us reach new and like-minded people, which is what this is all about. It's about growing a community here on YouTube, and yeah, this is the best community going, so why not, right?
They've been lying to us about the number 13. Watch this.
Do you think it's a coincidence that the number 13 is being seen as an unlucky number? It's not. It's not a coincidence. The number 13 has been erased from everywhere, and that is a big reason of why our system is not changing and why we're not stepping into harmony. I think we all know that 13 counts as a bad luck number. For example, Friday the 13th. In some buildings, there is no 13th floor. In some planes, there is no row 13. Even hospitals sometimes avoid the room 13. We have 12 months, 12 hours, 12 zodiac signs, 12 disciples. That is very weird, because the moon rotates the earth 13 times a year, not 12 times. Women have 13 menstrual cycles a year, not 12. We have 12 zodiac signs, while there is a 13th constellation in the sky, Ophiuchus, that was just cut up from the circle. We always talk about 12 apostles, but Mary Magdalene was the 13th. She was the feminine. That was completely erased. So why is that so important? Because the number 13 is the harmony of the universe. The fruit of life consists of 13 circles, which is the predecessor of Metatron's cube, male and female energies combined. So since the Metatron's cube plays a very important role of the creation of the universe, you could basically see the fruit of life as the womb of the universe. Number 13 is also part of the Fibonacci sequence, which is a sequence of numbers that you can find throughout nature and the universe. To erase 13 is to erase the path into natural time.
Maybe the number 13 isn't as evil and unlucky as we thought.
The Brazilians, who we are just now finding out, also had a deep and rich culture of megalithic temples that were previously hiding from us under the thick forest of the Amazon. They had a visitor just like the others, the daughter of the sun, who came across the Atlantic on a, quote, boat with no oars. And they didn't mention a sail either. She is unique in one very fascinating detail. She left open a telephone line for us to still be able to speak with her and her people. She gave us a portal to go through. This portal she gave the Amazonians was actually quite simple. She taught them to boil 2 very specific plants together for an allotted time to create a brew, known to us today as, you guessed it, ayahuasca. Is it a coincidence that when we partake in this hallucinogen today, we encounter beings and visuals that closely match the cultures of ancient times? Perhaps that is exactly what we are encountering. Viracocha and the daughter of the sun are said to have been able to melt stone with incredible heat. The sites we find the most abundant amount of those smooth, interlocking stone walls with no chisel marks are the very sites that these particular Promethean figures are native to. Whoa.
The Charlie Kirk thing is the Wizard of Oz, okay? Candace is Dorothy walking the yellow brick road, the path of truth, and Glenda, the witch, the good witch. Well, that's our intuition, always guiding us home, like the Christ consciousness. And the dog, Toto, that's totality. We're coming along for the ride, but you don't realize we're the ones that's going to expose everything at the end. That's why we're barking so loud right now. And Charlie is like the mayor of Oz, the likable one. He opens the gates, he welcomes you in, makes you feel safe. Behind the scenes, he's being played by the Empire, behind the curtain, right? He's been told to like move those levers, keep up the illusion, and make the people believe in a power that isn't real. It's not evil, it's just used. And when Dorothy, which is Candace, finally confronts him, he wakes up too. Now Tyler, that guy is a scarecrow. He's part of us that's always blamed for overnight. Erica, she's the wicked witch, obviously, the beautiful illusion that melts the moment truth touches it. And Cash Patel, well, he's the Tin Man, the investigator in us, searching for logic but missing the heart of the truth. And the FBI is the cowardly lion, obviously. Authority that roars, but it's actually terrified of the truth. The flying monkeys are the people that are being loyal to the illusion, the ones who attack truth seekers like us because it's easier for them to defend the lie. The trees, you know those trees in the movie dropping the apples, offering the truth, but fighting us the second we try to bite into it. Turning point. That's in our own life when the illusion collapses and we're forced to wake. Every character is us. Dorothy walking the truth. Toto exposing the lie, Charlie waking up, Tyler being blamed, Erica deceiving, Cash searching, the lion afraid, the monkeys defending the illusion, and the trees challenging us to seek knowledge. Seek and ye shall find, because once Toto pulls the curtain, the whole empire falls apart.
And that right there is exactly the kind of thing the internet wants you to believe. It creates the illusion that we're in the middle of some great awakening, when in reality it just causes more divide. If there was really a great awakening happening, you'd expect a lot more pressure to silence videos like this altogether. I think they're perfectly happy letting us believe whatever we want. Whether it's the idea that a moment like this Charlie Kirk situation is sparking people's awakening, or the idea that absolutely nothing is happening behind the scenes. Either way, confusion keeps everyone looking in the wrong direction, and to me, that is the point. This isn't some neat, tidy conspiracy. It's more like we're being nudged into a dozen different narratives so nobody notices the bigger picture, whatever that picture actually is. Because I genuinely think what's happening in the world right now goes way, way beyond politics, agencies, influencers, or any single group. It feels maybe supernatural, like something larger is unfolding and almost nobody truly understands it, which I think is intentional. And if there is some kind of big reveal coming, most people are going to miss it entirely, simply because they're too distracted and too confused to recognize it when it happens.
Morbid Facts, Part 822. During World War II, SS units carried out one of the regime's most disturbing programs, the mass kidnapping of up to 200,000 Polish children for forced Germanization. After being taken from their families, the children were sent to SS-run children's education camps, where they were subjected to horrific racial selection exams. SS doctors measured their skulls, noses, eye colors, and body proportions, trying to determine whether each child looked Aryan enough to be turned into a German. If a child passed the test, they were renamed, stripped of their identity, and adopted into German families as if they'd never been Polish at all. But if they failed, their fate was much darker. Many were transported to concentration camps, where countless children died from starvation, disease, abuse, or only an estimated 10 to 15% of the kidnapped children were ever found and returned to Poland after the war. At the Nuremberg trials, the Allies confirmed the program a form of A deliberate attempt to erase an entire population by stealing and remaking their children.
Like I mentioned a few days ago, these morbid facts just seem to get darker every time we cover them. What do you guys think?
I'm not sure who needs to hear this. They are mocking us Christians. Now, I understand you may be wondering, what do you mean that they are mocking us Christians? Well, they are mocking us through the naming of this mission right here, because the rulers that be love to speak through symbolism. Mr. President Golden Dawn unveils the Genesis mission to accelerate AI for scientific discovery. The Genesis mission, you don't say. Might as well just call it the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But with that being said, as we can see right here, the president signs executive order launching AI initiative being compared to the Manhattan Project. Oh, that sounds lovely. Compared to a project that brought forth the atomic great destruction. But hey, I guess it's fitting that AI in the Bible means heap of ruins. But hey, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Nothing to see here. But now we can go straight to the White House's website to see what this mission is all about. Section 1, purpose. From the founding of our republic, scientific discovery and technological innovation have driven American progress and prosperity. Today, America is in a race for global technology dominance in the development of artificial intelligence, AI, an important frontier of scientific discovery and economic growth. To that end, my administration has taken a number of actions to win that race, including issuing multiple executive orders and implementing America's AI Action Plan, which recognizes the need to invest in AI-enabled science to accelerate scientific advancement. In this pivotal movement, the challenges we face require a historic national effort, comparable in urgency and ambition to the Manhattan Project. That was instrumental to our victory in World War II and was a crucial or critical basis for the foundation of the Department of Energy. So I find it very interesting how he's using this comparison of urgency like World War II, as if we are in World War III right now. And now we can go further down, and I just find the wording and verbiage very interesting right here, so just stay with me. This order launches the Genesis mission. So once again, the reason why I am saying that they are mocking us is by calling this mission the Genesis mission, the beginning mission, because Genesis means the beginning. The beginning of what? You may be asking. Well, in my own humble opinion, I believe the beginning of the end. But now let's go back to this. The Genesis mission as a dedicated, coordinated national effort to unleash a new age of AI accelerated innovation. So I just love the verbiage, unleash, kind of like unleash the beast. To unleash a new age, maybe like a new golden age of AI accelerated innovation and discovery that can solve the most challenging problems of this century. The Genesis mission will build an integrated AI platform to harness federal scientific datasets, the world's largest collection of such datasets. So pretty much how I'm reading this, or what I see, is everybody's health data across the US will be collected into a data center. Maybe Doge has something to do with that, collecting everything with AI to then be able to further their research. I know they will sell it with good intentions because the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but in reality, there will be no privacy. There will be no, security for your own health records. Everything will be known by the AI for the greater good of humanity, of course. And now dropping down here, I found it pretty interesting in section 4, identification of national science and technology challenges. Number 2 is biotechnology. As I have talked about before in my videos, this idea of the bio-digital convergence, mixing man with machine, Web 3, the transhumanist agenda, and they are just moving full steam ahead, and they are mocking us Christians by calling this mission the Genesis mission. And now, like I said earlier in this video, I find it very interesting and very symbolic how in the Bible AI is an ancient city in Canaan where Joshua conquered, and AI literally means a heap of ruins. And now something else I find very interesting and symbolic is how Joshua was the leader to conquer AI, the heap of ruins. And for those who know biblically, Joshua is Jesus. The name of Jesus is really Yeshua, Joshua, and Joshua is a type or shadow of Messiah who conquers and goes forth into the promised land. So it is pretty fitting that in the end, Jesus, Yeshua, Joshua, will come down, destroying AI, this God made in the image of man, and turn it into a heap of ruin. Seems like it's all going to come full circle.
First of all, I never believed the Kanye apology video. To me, it came off very weird. And even though Kanye has titanium teeth, the clarity of his speech was very, not there, in my opinion. He seemed off. He seemed medicated, and if anybody knows about his Hollywood handler, he exposed Harley Pasternak behind some of his Psych 5150 holds where he was in the institutions, and given lithium, he disappears and then all of a sudden comes back, and then this is the apology, and this is what we're supposed to believe in this world of AI. Then all of these publications posting it, corroborating it. Hollywood has rhythm, and they will blast you with enough headlines posted in enough places for you to receive it as undeniable, verifiable truth. And I can't verify any of this stuff is fake, but it just feels off to me. And especially this picture. Look at this. Look at my man's hand right here going across the back. Now, this is a mirror reflection and I can't see in the whole entirety of the picture how my man's hand is coming around. But it just doesn't look right to me. It just doesn't look right. Am I the only one? That's why I'm not about to be criticizing Ye because of the amount of strides that he's made to speak against certain things and look at what it's cost him. And then he was in a fashion interview looking super out of it, just looking dejected, looking zombified. I know these looks, y'all. I worked 7+ years in psych wards. I know these looks. I remember talking to patients that had vast creativity, whether it's in music or fashion or art, with no light in their eyes. But as soon as you discuss a little bit of their passion or get them talking about what they're passionate about, you see that light return and that interest, kind of like how Ye is in this interview after my man's asked him about his fashion.
All right, AJ, Mystery Fashion is who I'm here with, and where you from?
I'm Ye, I'm from Shy.
Okay, we see the outfit, man. Rate your outfit from 1 through 10 and let me know what you're wearing.
Oh, it's always a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
I got the original Yeezy 950 boots on.
Crazy.
I had the, Gosha did the pop-up today, so the rest of it's all Gosha.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's a fashion trend you regret participating in?
Life.
It's truly sad to see, but this is also how you know that creativity is healing. Like I said, I have almost a decade of experience working in psych wards, seeing patients that are heavily medicated, doing the Thorazine shuffle, zombified, not connected with their inner self. But the moment you get them back around creativity, a light returns. The truth about what's really going on is already out there, but more and more people are starting to understand. It's only so much I can say. I already had one video completely striked and my account got a warning for this. But it's right in front of us.
You know what frustrates me the most? It's when billionaires say, we need to. But when they say we, they don't mean them. They mean you. Your bills, your taxes, your time. Because every time society needs something big, such as research, rebuilding, solving a crisis, the cost doesn't come from the people who profit the most. It comes from the people who already keep the system running. And this creates a weird illusion. The ones with the most resources present themselves as part of the we, but the weight doesn't fall equally. It falls on the majority who already carry everything else. We the people aren't angry because billionaires exist. We the people are angry because responsibility isn't shared with the same honesty as the rewards. And that's the part of the system that we need to fix. By building systems where we finally means all of us, not just the people paying the invoice. If humanity is going to move forward, the we has to become real.
Meet Gavin and Tanner. They're stupid, but they had a big plan. You see, their plan was to travel to the Gonav Island in Haiti. All the men on the island then take the women and children at. They would then force the women and children to watch Netflix with them. If you don't know what that means, look in the comments. Now, if all that sounds insane to you, it gets worse because it's the actual plan that these two came up with that's the scary part. You see, sometime last year, they meet up. They say, look, we still finna take over that island. Tanner said, I'm always ready. How we gonna do it? We're gonna go in military style. Gavin said, that's smart. You ever been to the military? Tanner said, I guess I haven't. So Tanner joins the Air Force and Gavin joins a firefighter academy so they can gain some skills to take over the island. Tanner in the Air Force, busting his ass. He said, man, this is tough. Let me see how Gavin doing. Ring, ring, ring. Gavin said, yep. Tanner said, okay, how's the firefighter training going? Gavin said, firefighter training? Oh, I flunked out. Remember, they stupid. He said, they was trying to make me learn and all that. Tanner said, ooh, I almost said something. Gavin said, cool your jets, Tanner, because I got a plan. Look, I'm finna go to Thailand and learn how to sail boats. Because to take over the island, we got to get to the island and we don't know how to sail. So Gavin flies over to Thailand. He says, hey, y'all, I'm trying to learn how to sail one of these. One of the folks out in Thailand said, yeah, we can teach you. Look, this is how much it's going to cost. Gavin said, cost? Oh, I'm broke. They said, oh, why don't you just Google how much it costs for us to teach you? We got websites. Gavin said, I should have done that. They said, yeah, but you can swim around the water though. That's free. Now it's at this point, the two men decided to take a step back because they realized they were in over their heads. Psych, stupid. You not listening. They dumb. They said, we'll figure out the boat stuff and the training stuff later. Let's move on to phase 2, recruiting soldiers. And by recruiting soldiers, I mean going to Washington, D.C. and asking homeless people to join them. In fact, Tanner requests to be stationed in Maryland so he can be close to Washington, D.C. so he can consistently try to recruit homeless people. The homeless people in Washington, D.C. were like, nah, we're not gonna do that. Gavin and Tanner said, y'all wanna think on it? And they said, nah. And it was at this point, Gavin and Tanner looked at each other and said, let's keep going. So they start writing battle plans. They start texting each other plans saying, all right, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go there. They start texting each other terrible things they're gonna do to the Haitian women. And it was at this point they get a knock on their door. Do. Gavin and Tanner said, who that? They said, it's the FBI. Gavin and Tanner said, y'all trying to join us? The FBI said, not really, but you're going to jail though. Gavin and Tanner said, all right, we coming out. You see, the FBI had been watching them for months. We don't know exactly how they got caught yet, but that information is probably gonna come out in the future. And well, these pictures you've been looking at this whole time, are they mugs? Gavin and Tanner said, how many years we facing? The FBI said, you're not facing like any years exactly, you're just facing your whole lives. Gavin and Tanner said, hey, but we didn't actually take over the island, we didn't do nothing. The FBI said, and you were never going to take over the island. You know how many people live on Gonab Island? Gavin and Tanner said, 40? FBI said 87,000. Gavin and Tanner said, well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. So now Gavin and Tanner both face life in prison for conspiracy to people in another country. Side note, they also face another 15 to 30 years for producing a video in which, let's just say, they're doing Epstein activities. Now, technically, these are all charges, so all of this is alleged, but they were texting about their plans back and forth for like a whole year. And they were being watched really closely by the FBI, so it's probably going to be life for Dumb and Dumber.
They got cameras in a dumpster now. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Let's go.
This is a first at the Michael's dumpster.
Why, bro? Cameras in a dumpster? Why? Let me get this straight. So you want to catch people going in the garbage, taking things you threw out because it was garbage. You didn't want it no more. Somebody wants to go and get it because they can't afford it, right? So now people are going to go to jail for stealing garbage. Stop playing with me. So this video is for entertainment purposes only. I don't know what the hell is going on at Michael's, but I think it's going to start going on everywhere. Shut up, dumpster diving. You better watch out. Because now there's cameras in the dumpsters. They want to watch who's going to take the garbage. I guess they're running out of reasons to lock people up. Stop playing with me. So it's not a game. All right, guys, you know what time it is. Shut up. What's up with Michael's? Give it away to your employees. Give it away to your staff instead of throwing it out. Because guess what? You throw it out, the dumpster people come, you think they threw it out, but they took it home and they profited off of it. Stop playing with me. So it's not a game. All right, guys, you know what time it is. Shut up. But I tell you one thing. If I ever go to a dumpster to get stuff and there's a camera in there, I might just flick them off.
We've been covering this for a while on the channel now. Let's just say, well, the controversial world of supermarket and mega grocery store waste policies, and every time we look into it, we keep finding the same thing. A lot of these stores are throwing out perfectly good food, still in date with no clear reason behind it. This dumpster cam clip feels like an extension of that trend, right? More and more people are exposing how much usable stuff gets tossed, and honestly, it's kind of shocking, especially when you think about how many people are struggling right now. And here in the UK, we all have to follow pretty strict recycling rules, yet some of these big stores don't seem to be following the same standards they expect from the public. It feels inconsistent, to put it politely. So having actual cameras in the dumpsters almost feels like the next level, not to reduce waste, but to stop people from taking items that probably shouldn't have been classed as waste in the first place. To me, it just looks like another layer of protection for the big corporations behind these chains, making sure everything flows in the way that they want it to, rather than allowing people to reduce waste or make use of perfectly fine items.
Did a man lay an egg? Or more accurately, 2 eggs? Yeah, did some guy just lay 2 eggs? Well, according to actress Kate Beckinsale, damn, she was hot. Her daughter's boyfriend laid 2 eggs the other night. Yeah, she told the story of her daughter's boyfriend laying eggs on the Jimmy Kimmel show the other night. And it wasn't a joke. She says it happened. So Kate Beckinsale goes on the show and tells Jimmy Kimmel, hey, my daughter's boyfriend laid an egg. An actual egg came out of his body. Then she said his stomach started to bother him, so he went to the bathroom. And what do you think happened there? Huh? He laid another egg. That's 2 eggs in one night. Jimmy Kimmel was legitimately shocked hearing about the egg-laying dude. But I have a question. Is this something this guy does all the time? Laying eggs? Or was it a one-time thing? Actually, in this case, 2-time thing. And are other guys going to start laying eggs now? Because when I go to the bathroom, a lot of stuff happens, but eggs usually aren't involved, unless it's a fart. Okay, Booshkies, let me know what you think about this egg-laying situation. Till next time, which will be later today. Shabadoo, Booshkies! Shabadoo!
What did we just witness? Because that has to be one of two things. Either it was completely made up, or it was some kind of medical emergency. I know which one my bets are on, and it's not the egg-laying dude. I just want to take a moment to thank both my YouTube channel members and my Patreon supporters. Honestly, guys, without your support, I could not make the videos that I make. They wouldn't be as long as they are. And yeah, you just keep this ship sailing. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And if you are interested in joining those absolute legends, head down to the video description below and click the link. You'll find, well, basically a portal of links, and the one which you're interested in if you're looking for subscriptions is either going to be the YouTube one or the Patreon one. And I recommend the latter for reasons I will not express, but you'll figure it out. And they both come with their respective perks, but the main one is having your name featured and immortalized on every video in which you have an active subscription. Pretty cool, if you ask me. You'll join all these other heroes, and if that's something that doesn't interest you, or you're not able to do that right now, but you still want to show support in your own way, hit that like button and leave a positive comment. It does a lot with the algorithm to help us reach new people and really strengthens our community here on YouTube. Cheers.
When you hear yourself talking in your head, who's doing the listening and who's doing the talking?
We don't say am hand or am leg. It's my hand, my leg, my body, my name. Who am I?
95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old sits in a subconscious memory system in which the body now is the mind. So how awake are we?
The only thing in the world you can control is your thinking.
If you can get a mental image of a person you would most like to become, begin now to act as that person would act in everything you do. Gradually, imperceptibly, you will actually become that person.
Everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you.
The ultimate creative capacity of the human brain may be, for practical purposes, they pointed out.
If you make fake scenarios in your head before you go to sleep, it's a sign of mental illness. While if you lie awake at night replaying your day's mistakes, it's a reflection of your desire for personal growth and perfection. Overthinking at night about past conversations reveals an inherent desire for perfection or fear of misunderstanding. Preferring certain songs on repeat might be a way to relive specific emotions or memories. Feeling a sense of nostalgia for simpler times means you're looking for solace in the past when the present becomes overwhelming. If you like people watching, this reflects a natural curiosity about the human condition, a longing to understand other stories. Feeling irrationally angry, and traffic reveals a deeper struggle with control and the discomfort of unpredictability in life. Constantly checking your phone for notifications is an unconscious expression of your need for connection and validation from others. Feeling a sense of sadness on Sunday evenings symbolizes your longing for a life filled with more meaningful work and passion.
And I am personally one of those people who are guilty of both, as I am sure many of you guys might be in the same boat here.
This is so beautiful.
Excuse me, what's your dream?
My dream is to be a faithful servant of Jesus Christ.
Okay, right, what does that mean?
Well, he saved me. Before I gave my life to God, my life was a mess. I was in prison twice for stabbing someone 3 times, and that person should have died.
Oh my God.
Why should have got life in prison? Like, I went to prison for stabbing someone 3 times. I was once a problem, but now I am a solution to knife crime, to the streets.
How are you a solution to it? What's your solution?
We all need to look beyond ourselves, right? It's where I've come from. They don't see people raising their hands in the air saying, I'm a leader. They don't see people telling people to put down their knives. All they see is negativity being perpetuated in our streets. Listen, I should have died as well, but God spared both of us. And now I have to be a voice that saves a generation. I have to be a voice that saves a generation. I have to be.
I don't feel inspired very often these days. I'm standing here feeling quite inspired. It's more passion.
You ever notice how 2 people can make the same mistake, but somehow they don't land in the same reality? One gets a warning, the other one gets a life-changing consequence. So, same action, different world. And I'm not even talking conspiracy. I guess I'm talking structure. Because the legal system we inherited wasn't designed around human beings. It was designed around categories, such as status, income, connections, resources. And it reacts to who you are on paper, not to who you are as a person. And maybe that's why it feels like justice bends. Not magically, mechanically. The system reads your socioeconomic profile long before it reads your story. And you know, we don't actually need harsher punishment or softer punishment. We need coherent consequences with the same weight, the same clarity, the same process, whether you're rich, poor, unknown, or influential. Because when the rules shift depending on who's being judged, people stop trusting the rules altogether. And when people stop trusting the rules, society stops functioning as one ecosystem. And it splits into tribes of fear, resentment, and survival mode. So the real update isn't more law or less law. It's a system where every action has the same outcome, no matter who performs it. A system that treats humans as humans, not as brackets.
That philosophy, if you want to call it that, applies to every corner of life, not just our mistakes, but everything. The good, the bad, the positive, the negative. Every conscious choice we make carries its own ripple. Even something as small as picking up a cup of coffee and taking a sip might feel insignificant, but the experience you have in that moment is completely unique to you. Someone else could repeat the exact same action and find themselves in a totally different reality, mentally, emotionally, or even spiritually. And that's basically how the entire universe works. Every tiny intentional decision that we make is a personal thread in a much larger tapestry, one that no one else can replicate. Our paths look similar on the surface, but the experience behind every choice is entirely our own.
Are you sick of AI? Are you getting this sneaking suspicion that it might not become conscious and it might be a fad? I'm trying to draw out a pimple. Ignore this. I'm going to tell you 5 other way cooler inventions where you should be looking to invest, where your curiosity should be, and what can actually change your life. Not complicate it further. What can actually heal the human psyche? That is what we're looking for. We are looking for love. We are looking for connection. We are looking for a real magical human experience. And I think we all are realizing that AI ain't doing it for us. And that most of you know that consciousness is not a computer. It is not brainwaves. It is a mystery. We have put so much money, like 50 years towards studying it. Let it be a mystery. We don't need to figure it out. It's more about how to be in relationship with our consciousness and reality. It is like dating someone and trying to control them and figure out everything about them, even though they're always changing, instead of just learning how to be in relationship with them. Cooler thing number 1, applying ultrasound waves to the brain to hopefully reverse Alzheimer's and to maybe even help depression. In 2015, Stuart Hamroff, who is an anesthesiologist, they did a study where it showed improved mood when you applied transcranial ultrasound to the brain. It also had benefits for meditating. It also was non-invasive and safe. It can potentially help addiction, mental health, and Alzheimer's disease. You could Google the study yourself, but it wouldn't make people a lot of money, which is probably why it has not been advanced. But if you're an investor, hit up Stuart Hamroff because they're actually trying to help people. Another interesting thing everyone should be looking at is by this man right here, who studies biophysics and unconventional computing in Japan. And he talks about a new design of a brain-like computer that is not AI, points towards a future where organic materials act as sentient support tech, that's my language, rather than being consciousness tech. So forget AI being conscious. This is more what they would call proto-conscious organic material or inorganic material that has self-organization and intelligence using a type of fractalization in which molecules can communicate wirelessly via resonance bands, forming self-organizing nanobrains that can learn and reconfigure themselves without conventional circuits or algorithms. Kind of similar to how slime molds have no brain. They literally have intelligent behaviors like solving waves, remembering past events, blah, blah, blah. Somehow we probably took that and now made these things from soft jelly having to do with proteins, host information processing. The third thing, I'm only going to do 3, is plasma computing. This is a futuristic thing not most people know about. I wrote a whole book about this. The link is in my bio about plasma in the future. Plasma is the perfect organic medium for consciousness computing because it is the vehicle for consciousness, in my opinion. We get there by studying dusty complex plasma, plasma crystals. We create living fields not from silicon that have to do with plasma and electromagnetism. Multidimensional computing. This is where you should be looking if you're smart, future-oriented.
This guy, Peter Layden, is a longtime tech expert and thought leader on the future, predicting technology of like the advancement and stuff. He believes within the years 2025 to 2050, at one point, we will have a global governance.
Oh boy.
Primarily ran by AI.
Oh my gosh, Jesus, come back.
He broke down the 80-year cycle and he laid it out, saying 2025 is actually the beginning of this new cycle of technology. And he thinks it's going to be a crazy development in AI, clean energy, and bioengineering. And he broke it down. And he's like, the old old tradition of capitalism is not really working.
Right.
It's starting to be outweighed. Yeah. And there's a lot of people protesting, like the gap between poor and wealthy is separating even more and more. As I said, I think with AI, with all this stuff, it's going to flip it. He's like, yeah, I do see a global governance system towards like more of a overarching one world governance system ran by AI.
This just seems more realistic every single day.
I know.
Is the AI going to try?
Yeah.
This should not exist on Earth.
I've covered this topic so many times, guys. I apologize if this is your 4th or 5th time seeing me talk about it, but this is the best example of this that I've ever seen. This is a pretty simple video that I got tagged in, shows a person emptying an out-of-ground pool. They have a hole right here that all of the water is being drained through, but you'll notice something pretty interesting. The water looks like it's not moving at all. It looks like it's just frozen in time. Many of you guys are probably very familiar with what this is called. This is referred to as a laminar flow. This is the exact opposite of a turbulent flow, where you have a bunch of currents that are moving in a random way that make the water obvious that it's moving. Instead, laminar flow, all of the water conforms to the exact same pattern and does not differ from that. This results in the water stream looking like it's standing completely still because it is unchanging in its flow and current. And it's for sure, in my opinion, one of the coolest optical illusions that you can do at home with just a balloon and a piece of tape.
In yet another example of animals being way smarter than we knew, it appears that a wild wolf may have potentially been using tools. This is a wild wolf living in the coast of British Columbia, which was filmed pulling a crab trap out of the ocean to eat the bait, a never before seen behavior that could constitute the first documented use of tools by a wolf. Although, there are some arguments that this is not a true tool use, and there is no understanding of how they learned how to do this. Some theorize that the wolf may have watched a human doing it and learned by copying the human. And the other theory is the wolf could have just figured it out on their own. So this indicates a potential high level of problem solving that people were not aware of. The wolf is not randomly pulling. It doesn't look like she's playing.
As much as people love to humanize everything around them, even nature, it usually comes from projecting our own insecurities onto animals. We want them to think like us, feel like us, act like us, but they just don't. Nature is nature, and honestly, it's far more complex than we give it credit for, without us trying to paint it with human emotions. Animals are their own wonder, just like humans are ours. But anyway, getting back on track, personally, I don't think this is learned behavior. I don't think it's evidence of tool use or some deep level of problem solving. To me, this is simply canines being canines. They love to play. They see a stick, they chew it. They see something round, they chase it. Dogs play, wolves play. They come from the same lineage, so it makes sense. What I think happened here is more of a happy alignment. Don't use the word coincidence because that's not in my vocabulary. They were just messing around, realized they could pull something up to the surface, and inside that something was food. And if the final result is food, of course they're going to repeat it. That's instinct, not engineering. But consider that your science core for today. We have something on the opposite end of the scale to cover now. Let's take a quick look at some of the politically aligned news of the day. Check these out.
Have an American traitor like Jonathan Pollard, who has aided and abetted the enemy, in this case the Soviet Union, or even Italy in this case, and then advocates the use of nuclear weapons against the United States. To me, that is a clear and present danger to the United States, to American citizens, and to American installations. And then to have our ambassador meet with this person,
right?
It's unfathomable.
I believe he still is. He hasn't renounced his American citizenship, right? Because you need to go to an embassy to do this.
That's
so
right.
He is clearly still acting as a traitor to the United States. It's not a past event.
No, it's not a past event. And listen, just to make it even crazier, Jonathan Pollard is currently running for the Knesset, the Parliament, as an independent from the far right wing of, he's even too right wing for the extreme right wing Zionist parties. So he's just running as independent. But he's seeking elected office in a foreign country.
Are the American Zionists, the pro-Israel crowd, like the Mark Levins of the world, the Laura Loomers, all of these people, have they been denouncing this? Or have you seen? I haven't seen any.
Not that I've seen.
I haven't seen it.
No,
but.
not on their part. I've seen, the likes of Tucker Carlson denouncing and Candace Owens denouncing, and Twitter or X was very busy today.
This is a major breaking news. According to MS Now, Trump is reportedly highly considering firing FBI Director Kash Patel. This comes after Kash Patel hired a SWAT team to look after his girlfriend and used private jets to fly all around the country. It's as if Trump doesn't actually hire the best people after all.
I'm telling you, Trump, we don't want to see golden gold. I know gold's great. I'm not against it. We don't want to see gold halls and all the billionaires and Larry Ellison. We want to see war against tyranny. We want to see revolution. We want to see maverick. We want to see outlaw. I mean, take Texas country. In the early 1970s, they told Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson and a few others, we don't like your long hair and you singing about smoking pot. Get out, you're a band. Now, they weren't rebels robbing train cars or, no. But they moved to Austin, Texas, and just said, we're rebels. And within 5 years, they were 70% of country music sales for people. Well, that's fake rebel. And I know Willie Nelson, friends with them all. I'm not saying they're not real rebel. Compared to what Trump's done, he is literally Jesse James. We want Jesse James. We don't want, and Trump's not King Trump, what Democrats said, but he's kind of gone into that mode. We don't want King George V.
By the way, this is what Nick Fuentes said to Trump when they had dinner. He said exactly this to him. And Ye was sitting right there next to him. And he said, we want this. We want you to stand up. When you stood up at that debate and you said this, like, we need more of that. We need more of that backbone that you showed. And then Trump turned to him and said, oh, you like that, huh? You like that? Yeah. I like this. I like this too.
Yes, you can tell him, because, I've had a bunch of calls for White House those 4 or 5 days. I said, what are we doing? Like, do you not listen? We don't want just fake rebel. We want rebel.
The very same Congresspeople who told members of the military to disobey unlawful orders, which is something that they are required to do by the oath they took. Those same people have released a statement regarding the Trump administration using the FBI to target them. Quote, President Trump is using the FBI as a tool to intimidate and harass members of Congress. Yesterday, the FBI contacted the House and Senate sergeants at arms requesting interviews. Quote, no amount of intimidation or harassment will ever stop us from doing our jobs and honoring our Constitution. We swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. That oath lasts a lifetime and we intend to keep it. We will not be bullied. We will never give up the ship. There are also reports that Senator Kelly has also been contacted by the FBI. This specifically comes from Congressmen Jason Crow, Chris DeLuzio, Maggie Goodlander, and Chrissy Houlihan, who released this as a joint statement. This is truly scary.
Germany has just announced plans to build the strongest military in Europe again. But to achieve that, young Germans could see their lives disrupted overnight. Starting next year, every 18-year-old in Germany will receive a government questionnaire asking things like, would you voluntarily join the military? Are you willing to serve? And what skills do you have? For men, responding is mandatory. For women, it's optional, at least for now. Then, the following year in 2027, things really start heating up. Every 18-year-old will face mandatory medical exams to assess whether they're fit to serve or not. That's roughly 300,000 to 400,000 people turning 18 every year. This is essentially because Germany wants to create a list of how many healthy bodies the military can call if the time comes to go to war. But why now? Well, put simply, Germany and all other NATO countries are preparing for a possible Russian attack by 2029. That is 4 years. Now, the significance of the year 2029 is a longer story, but Germany specifically wants to recruit an additional 90,000 active soldiers and another 200,000 reservists by 2035. And it's written into the bill, which was approved last week, that if they don't get those numbers by voluntary sign-ups, mandatory conscription is on the table. And in that case, university plans, careers, even personal decisions will have to be put on hold for young Germans. Perhaps others in Europe too, since France, the UK, and other Nordic countries have all hinted at conscription debates as well. But the question is, does a strong German military prevent a war through deterrence, or are we heading down a worrying path?
It was almost like Kamala Harris was psychic or something. She was right about everything.
Oh, I wouldn't go so far as to say that Kamala Harris was psychic or showing some kind of force like nobody else had. What I would say is that maybe she was right, but probably only because she had information fed to her behind the scenes. And just think about it, right? Whoever's pulling the strings basically knows what's coming before it happens. They could give her details about what Trump was going to do, or rather what he was guided to do, so she could use it in her campaign. And in the process, it just keeps the divide alive, even now, long after the election. Pretty convenient, isn't it? But enough politics. Let's get back into the game.
No, you do not get to lie to me. You do not get to lie to us, because guess what? I have the receipts. So the other day I made this video that went pretty viral where I called out a private equity firm for banning parents from filming their own kids during their kids' hockey games. It was absolutely evil and insane. Then the company called Black Bear Sports Group posted this on their Instagram saying, no, of course parents are allowed to video and record their own children during games. We just don't allow live streaming or broadcasting. Except guess what? This is a big old lie. I can prove that because I got my hands on the actual contracts that players, parents, and coaches have to sign. And here's what it says. Quote, licensees and participants, players, coaches, trainers, spectators, and supporters shall have no right to film, televise, broadcast, or webcast any event held in the arena for personal or commercial use. That's right, no filming for personal or commercial use, not just about the live streaming. Because guess what? The truth is they just want your money. $37 a month just to watch your kids play sports. And at this very moment, they are going through and furiously deleting comments on their Instagram page. And once again, this is their CEO, Mary Gunty, for whom I just have one word, shame.
The vice president of Campbell's just got caught saying they use bioengineered meat in their food. He literally said on a voice recording he would never eat their food because it's disgusting, it's made for poor people, and who would want to eat chicken made out of a 3D printer?
A former employee recorded it all. Eric Erickson shares that recording and what the company is saying about it.
We have shit for poor people. Who buys our shit? I don't buy Campbell's products barely anymore. It's not healthy. Now that I know what the in it. Even in a can of soup, I look at it, look at meat, bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer. You? They couldn't think for the like you don't.
That might be some of the most insane stuff I've ever heard from a vice president of a company that big. Now, if he's the vice president, he knows what's in that damn can. And he said it's 3D printed, bioengineered meat. So Campbell's is pretty much cooked now, and they're getting a massive lawsuit. This might be the end of Campbell's. They released a statement up here, and if we get more information on this case, I'll be sure to keep you guys updated.
You know how they like to tell us the truth in the movies, right? Well, approximately 200 asteroid craters have been found in the Earth. And the Book of Enoch talks about 200 fallen angels. You think they're telling us something here?
We were not stoned with lie. It was not our place to interfere. Yet we chose to try and help mankind. And when we disobeyed the Creator, He punished us. We were encrusted by your will.
But I've done this video talking about how there are 200 impact craters, and one of them's even on fire all the time, and how there just happen to be about approximately 200 countries. And there's a pyramid at the end of a phoenix in a city in Kazakhstan that just happens to be an anagram for Satan that also has 200 perfectly aligned seats right at the apex of the pyramid. And like I said, the should be canonized in the Bible Book of Enoch, well, it talks about 200 fallen angels. Fallen angels that the Book of Enoch equates with stars. Stars with angels, particularly fallen angels. And well, what do we call the celebrities of today? We call them stars, and we give them a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And you want to know something interesting about the Hollywood Walk of Fame? Well, a performer can have more than one star recognizing their separate achievements in more than one category. But the initial group was only that of 199. Some were selected for repeat recognition. So I wonder if that means that George Clooney and Cary Grant have their each unique separate star. Go watch that video if you haven't. You know who else has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? Larry Hagman. You know, Larry Hagman from Dallas and I Dream of Jeannie, who just happens to bear a very similar resemblance to Tom Brady. So similar that when you push their heads together, you see that they have the exact same butt chin in the exact same place, minus Tom's a little fitter now. And there's more. They just happen to share these unique markings on their face in the exact same place and the exact same alignment right on their cheek there. Oh, and you know the funny thing about Tom? He sure is referred to as a star who cares a lot. Starcast. Star. There's a star behind him. He's holding a star. You know what's even better is he was chosen in the 6th round behind 6 other quarterbacks. 6'6". You know what pick he was?
Anxious time for so many football players who are college stars. Among the last 6 picks taken, a familiar name if you're a college football fan, Tom Brady, the quarterback who all he did was lead this football team, put them in the right position more times than not.
I'll just back to the Hollywood Walk of Fame for a second. There were originally 7 first honorees. 7. And now back to the Book of Enoch, where it says stars are angels, particularly fallen ones. And there were 7 stars that are imprisoned in a place of punishment for their disobedience. And where were they imprisoned? Located at the end of heaven and earth. It kind of makes me think of the firmament, right? And there were 7 of those. You ever think about how many planets there are? Well, yeah, there's 8, but if you take the Earth away, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And again, the 7 stars are imprisoned in a place of punishment, a prison located at the end of heaven and earth. And while I couldn't help but think of this truth in plain sight from the movie Superman, where Jor-El as an Elohim imprisons some disloyal followers. And where does he imprison them? Well, take a look for yourself. And I also couldn't help but notice how those kind of remind me of the rings of Saturn, as this prison from space comes to encapsulate them. Maybe these so-called planets that we see in our night sky aren't so much something you can send a rover to, but something you can send a disobedient fallen angel to. Oh, and speaking of disobedient Elohim, I wonder what Elon has to say in his most Elon things he's ever said. There's 199, by the way. And boy, if you just turn that 99 upside down. Oh, and you know the funny thing about Elon is he seems to have some very similar markings in the exact same spot on top of the ones up on his eye as the original rocket man of NASA, Wernher von Braun. How interesting. But of course, all this is for entertainment purposes. I know that this was formed from an asteroid millions of years ago that came down perfectly straight and left no trail whatsoever. And there just happens to be 200 of them, like there's 200 fallen angels because of coincidence. Just like it's a coincidence that there are 7 planets and 7 stars that are imprisoned in a place at the ends of heaven and earth. Kind of sounds like space to me. And that Larry Hagman has a star on the Walk of Fame, and Tom Brady is referred to as a star all the time and just happens to be the 199th pick after 6 quarterbacks in the 6th round, and looks and even dresses similarly to Larry Hagman because of coincidence. Just like it's a coincidence that their things and face symmetry and even hairline match perfectly. Entertainment only. I'm just the guy that likes to point out coincidences.
It's been a while, Fittest Flat Earther. Welcome back to the channel, and you've even shown up with some fresh material this time. Almost. I mean, we still got a little dose of the classic Hollywood actors playing Hollywood characters for funsies, and hey, you nearly made it through a whole video without the pareidolia. Nearly.
When it comes to invading Venezuela, Republican Congresswoman Salazar just said the quiet part out loud. Listen.
Venezuela, for the American oil companies will be a field day. We're going to be doing a favor to us, to our children, to our economy, to our oil companies.
So yes, it's about stealing the oil and distracting from the Epstein files.
I'm an American that is here in Lebanon, and there's something very interesting about this attack that was made on Lebanon today that you would not expect. I've been saying it for a long time to y'all. Not what you think. You have to hear the whole story if you're really going to understand what's happening in the world right now. I'm not a religious man, but I am going to tell you right now a little bit about Jesus and how he actually is connected to all of this that's happening right now. You see, 2,000 years ago, in a place known as, when they say he died for our sins, what that means is that he's showing you what the evil world that is controlled by the ego, controlled by selfish greed, controlled by the poison, right? It's all very obvious, and we're living on a timeline right now where the contrast is becoming so clear. You may want to ask me right now, why am I mentioning Jesus? It is because he knew for his entire life how he would die, yet he went through with it because it's to be made so that humanity would have a chance of waking up beyond this illusion, beyond this veil that they're constantly lost within. And the ones profiting off of that are the ones that are taking innocence and attacking land. So we got to get past that now as a collective, and that's what I'm here to speak to you about. Same ones who took the land are the same ones that took him from his body. They're the same ones that orchestrated a religion into place to create separation and judgment upon one another, just creating more ego. It's extending you further into the illusion. I don't want to lose anyone with this message. If you're interested in working with me in a one-on-one session where I'll open your energy, expand your consciousness, and guide you on how to move forward in your life and give you a lot of higher metaphysical wisdom that your spirit has been ready for, to change your life forever, to manifest the life that you want, email me at radenlightenment@gmail.com. Then we can move forward and change your life. Because for this cycle of evil to stop, you have to create the change within yourself. You have to light that spark within you. You have to take that choice, make that leap, make that jump into your higher reality. You can only do that if you start to focus on what's within you and what's in front of you simultaneously, equally, and see the common trend. The common trend is they're trying to pull you into a distortion. You're seeing destruction by an evil force. And what I sense while I'm here spiritually is that there is an attack on the consciousness of humanity, and a lot of it is in ways that you would never expect. One attack is just symbolism of what they're actually doing to you on an internal level constantly, through subliminal messages, through what you consume, through programming, through separation, labels, judgment, ego, religion, believing in such a harsh way about countries, right? Each country having its border. None of these things are in alignment with Jesus, right? And the reason I'm mentioning him is because a lot of this started with him, because they have done all they could to take his message and use it for their own benefit, whilst they took him from the planet 2,000 years ago. The same group, the same entity. And what you have to understand is that all they want is for you to not wake up. So if you don't fully awaken yourself, you're giving them what they want, right? And I know we do it in steps as humans, right? You can't do everything so fast. Some can wake up fully in an instant. Most, however, need to do it in parts. But I'm sure a lot of the things you're seeing in the world and how things are becoming so clear over the last few years, right? Especially the last 5 years, you're noticing that there is change happening on very deep levels in front of you and within you. And that's leading you somewhere. And it has to be beyond this old, tainted reality where a tyrant is here to create a toxic world. Instead, live in a pure world within yourself, and you'll start to shift the reality around you. I'm only speaking of this because I know it affects many that are living on the whole planet, especially in America, where I know most of you are. This is all rooted from a long time ago. And the root is really within you, because all they want is your belief, your consciousness. And they really throw you off sometimes, because an attack is really just trying to distract you from what's really going on. What's really going on is the consciousness of humanity has been put under a spell. The craziest thing that you maybe wouldn't even believe is that they're constantly running experiments on y'all. And where I am here in Lebanon, it's being done significantly, because in Lebanon there's a lot of anger, a lot of identity, a lot of separation, a lot of judgment, a lot of unconscious behavior. And that loop is the residual effect of what they are doing, right? An attack is just symbolism. You have to learn to read through the lines and see what's really going on, because it's going to keep happening over and over and over again, right? You're funding them to do this, but you're also funding them not just financially, you're funding them energetically. Maybe not you directly, but anyone who doesn't actually see through the illusion, you're allowing it to persist unknowingly. And they know that. That's why they keep throwing you off. They give you half of the truth, and the other half gets mixed somewhere, and you get lost within the shadows where they work best. But this is why we are now in a time where the truth is being completely illuminated.
If you take deep inhalation to the count of 4, pause through the nose always, not through the mouth. Take deep breath, inhale to the count of 4 deeply, pause 2, exhale 6, or some variation of that. Normal breathing rate is about 14. If you do what I just told you, inhale 4, pause 2, exhale 6 through the nose, your breathing rate will come down to 8. At 8, your brain waves switch from beta to alpha. And if you go a little bit below 8, with this kind of vagal breathing, we call it vagal breathing, you can get to 6 and even 5, in which case you go to the dream state, and even to the deep sleep state, it can take you. So vagal breathing is the best way to activate the healing response in the body. And if you actually add yoga and singing and chanting to that, singing and chanting, you stimulate this vagus nerve right here, the resonance. It's called vagal resonance. There's a lot of work right now on this. If you want, again, Google something called the polyvagal theory, and you'll see that a lot of research is being done on vagal stimulation. Even people are creating devices where we don't need that. We just need to do deep breathing, a little bit of yoga, and if you like to sing and chant, it's even better. That's what vagal breathing is.
Did you know that there is a hyperdimensional component to electricity? That light may just be multidimensional? Yes, they're even talking about it in science, so this is not just metaphysical jumbo. The future of computing may lie not in silicon chips, but in beams of light. What might this have to do with your own personal magic? I will tell you. So I'm reading this book, Transdimensional Mind by Chris Hardy, PhD. And in it, she speaks of a 1959 study where they figured out that there is more to electromagnetic fields than what we call the B and E fields. That they had a hyperdimensional component. Why? Remember, we still don't know what electricity even is. It's basically plasma because lightning is plasma, but that's fine. That's for another time. In this experiment, there was a superconducting torus. And yes, I'm trying to draw a pimple. Leave it alone. In which both the magnetic field, which was B, and the electric field, which is E, were shielded hermetically. So the torus region was totally field-free, internal region. And a beam of electrons was fired through. The electron's electronic state was still modified. But how is it modified if there was no electromagnetism modifying it? That is when the Aronoff-Bohm effect was created, feeling that there must be some type of hyperdimensional component, the EM field. In this book, she talks about a hyperdimension modifying it. So what modified these electrons? I call it a multidimensional plasma field. And what it has to do with your own personal magic, I will tell you. In my book, A New Force, which is a bestseller in biophysics, I talk about a multidimensional plasma. It extends beyond the fourth state of matter, which is plasma and ionized gas, which is lightning. It makes up stars. It also makes up the northern lights that we've seen, the aurora borealis. There's also a type of blood plasma, different type of plasma, but they're the same thing in different aspects. They all have the same properties and behaviors. Look it up. They were named after each other, but fundamentally different in science. I say that these are all part of a multidimensional plasma field. It is like the elephant in philosophy, where science is touching the leg of the elephant, and they're like, oh, it's plasma. But then we're touching like the butt of the elephant, and we're like, oh, it's ether. But it's all plasma. It is a finer plasma. It is a living ether that makes up the fabric of reality, and it is multidimensional. And it also makes up the realm of our thoughts and emotions and our dreams. It is unobservable because it makes up immaterial reality. And the material plasma is the fourth state of matter. Now, the coolest part about all of this is that our consciousness interacts with this multidimensional plasma to create reality. So while most people study consciousness, we are going to study the fabric of reality. Because if you learn how to be in a relationship with this intelligent fabric of reality that also affects things like this, that just is not observable yet because we don't have the tools, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And she even calls it the hyperdimension. I call it plasma, multidimensional plasma. In my magic class, which is December 8th, if you're watching this after, I probably have a new class, Comment Magic. For more info, you will learn about this magical suppressed substance, how to connect with it. Magic.
This is your reminder that our God is still a God that performs miracles. This is James Drain. He was blind for 8 years due to MS and being exposed to chemicals at his workplace. But then he got baptized and everything changed. As soon as he came out of that water, he realized he could see. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. God never changes. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The same God who is doing miracles then is still doing miracles now. Jesus replied, "What is impossible with man is possible with God." The creator of the universe, the God that created you, is alive and active and still performing miracles. And he wants a relationship with you. He came down in the flesh and took your place on that cross. He died to pay for your sins, so you don't have to pay for them yourself in hell. His gift of salvation is free. All you have to do is say yes to it.
I can't show the actual clip of this happening, but somehow this kid ended up walking away uninjured, and I'm quite shocked. The video that you guys just watched was sent to me through Instagram DM. In it, this group of cars can be seen driving through a drive-through safari. The kids in front of the person recording are hanging outside of the car, which is something that you should never do when you're around wildlife. This bison walks up and headbutts the kid. Now, obviously, these kids are very lucky. Bison are exceptionally strong. They can have viciously sharp horns, so this could have ended with that kid no longer having a jaw. But this is a bigger systemic problem overall. I've seen countless videos now of people getting out of their vehicles at drive-through safaris, not taking things seriously, and getting mauled by things like tigers. Or, wildly enough, getting picked up through the sunroof of their vehicle by giraffes. So the main thing to remember, if you're ever going through a drive-through safari, keep everything shut, keep all of your body parts inside of the vehicle.
You should never mess with nature, just leave it alone, okay? But messing with a bison, that's a whole other level on the scale of things you should never do.
I remember being chastised in a psych ward for talking to a patient that had delusions and kind of letting them get their stuff off. Like, they were talking about all types of stuff with me, and I wasn't confirming it, but I'm listening to them, giving them the time of day. I'm like, yeah, tell me more about that. You know, letting them explain their world. And one of the supervisors pulled me in to the office and was just like, "Hey, I understand that you're trying to be friendly and build a good rapport, but it's not helpful to let a patient get deep into their delusions." And I'm thinking, like, first off, what they were sharing wasn't even that bad. Second, half the time y'all trying to give this man injections because you're talking about how violent he is, and right now he's just getting his stuff off and he has an outlet. And third, how do you expect to help somebody without listening to exactly where they're at? But I learned very early not to underestimate patients, and the things that they call delusional might end up actually being true. Like the lady that was crying the FBI is after me, and then all of a sudden men in black suits come up to the unit, to take her away. And she just looked at us like, "I told y'all." Now, I get this question all the time because it's one of my most viral videos is, why didn't y'all do anything? Once y'all saw that them people come up and take her away, the FBI, CIA, whatever three-letter agency it was, why didn't anybody stand in her defense? Excuse me, I was making like $12 to $14 an hour to pay my rent and not get involved in these three-letter agencies' business, as if my positioning could make a pebble of a difference. Come on now. Y'all gotta use y'all heads. We civilians out here know your rank. But it was duly noted, and it expanded my mind about what psych wards really are, and it led me to look at the history and see how many people were experimented on and how many disorders that are in our DSM are the result of people being experimented on with high dosages of LSD for the purpose of seeing if the human brain can become a blank slate for mind control. And yes, they did succeed. That was MK Ultra. And even though psych wards are quite functionable, in more extreme cases for patients, especially a homeless population or somebody that is super drug induced, don't have family, you know, those types of individuals are perfect candidates for experimentation. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened to the lady. She did ended up, you know, shotgun across the street into her neighbor's door because she claimed they were spies. But, you know, her being one for one with, you know, whatever three-letter agency being after her, you know, makes me wonder if she would have been 2 for 2 when she was saying that her neighbors were spies. Hence why she crossed the street into their front door and nobody was home. When I looked into the history of psych wards, when I looked into the history of a lot of disorders, I started looking at this system real funny. Which is why I think it's important, if you're a worker in the psych ward, to truly be an advocate, to understand where these places are sourced from. Not that they can't do any good, not that your role isn't impactful, and that this isn't a serious, you know, system that can do things for people. I have people in my DMs all the time that are like, "Yo, if it wasn't for this medication, if it wasn't for this psych visit, like, good things can happen." That's the whole goal of a system, is to have it believable enough to operate all other things. You know what I'm saying? Like, to, in a sense, use the good workings of a system as a cloak. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that the whole thing is about, taking advantage of people and experimenting and doing crazy things like that. However, if you think that there aren't multi-purposes for these facilities and that they aren't windows or connections to other things that I probably can't mention on this app, then you are sadly mistaken.
This part is important also because it gives us an idea of what we're supposed to function like and what we'll progressively be restoring in our own body template, but also bringing back to the race. As we heal ourselves, we are doing a great favor to the human race and the indigo race on this planet. We're bringing back a potential that was almost lost and outbred, genetically outbred from this race where it couldn't be regenerated. We are regenerating it, so these potentials come back. Now, growth through time. You remember, time's all happening at once. So why does it seem like we start out as fetuses and then we grow to be children? We become babies and then children and then grown-ups and, then die and fall apart? Well, why do we get this image if it's all really happening at once? Growth through time is created through frequency accretion. Accretion means bringing in, drawing into the self. In this context, that's how that word is used. Frequency accretion. Drawing frequency bands from the dimensional unified field of consciousness into the personal morphogenetic field, which expands the personal morphogenetic field. All right, what we're doing is turning on more flashlight sequences in our templates, which gives us the same, what that says, drawing frequency bands in. What does that mean? We're pulling them from here to here? Not exactly. They're already in here. We're turning them on. We're turning on light bulbs. The more light bulbs you turn on, the more hologram is projected. We move through time, and we start out with a very little bit of light bulbs on. A very little tiny bit of conception. There's a very little tiny bit, little spark of light. A light bulb turns on that allows for a D12 current to anchor to give it a divine blueprint so an individual can happen. From that point, that field body, that conceived body, has to expand itself. It has to be able to hold multiple dimensions of consciousness before a being can actually live in there. Many miscarriages happen with baby bodies that there was something wrong with the genetic combination of that particular conception where there wasn't enough frequency. The body couldn't hold, the little baby body or the fetal body couldn't hold enough frequency to allow the soul to put an anchoring rod of frequency into the body. Fetal integration process is the process by which you, as an avatar, and as an oversoul, and as a soul, and as a being with a part of you in D3, anchor your consciousness into a very specific mathematical template that encodes your scalar grid, where your consciousness is stationed, into a very particular biological orientation. On this side of the fence, that's what's happening on the non-manifest side that you don't see here. On this side of the fence, what you get is a fetal pattern, which has a portion of the DNA template from the mother and a portion from the father that get put together and melded into a new one. And it's into that new pattern that at first isn't a separate person yet. Okay? When conception occurs, that is not an individual yet. It is the potential for an individual. At that point, the soul has not anchored. No soul, no Christos has yet anchored itself, put down literally a rod of frequency to anchor into the first of the first 8 cells. The first of the first 8 cells in cell division, when a zygote is formed, they hold the potential for soul integration, which is fetal integration, the process, bless you, of an individual life choosing that body pattern to grow it to be human. This means that no matter how much Catholic Church wants to tell you that life starts at conception, they're wrong because it can't within the natural laws of physics that apply to the formation of body forms in the hologram. Because if you tried to do fetal integration right at the moment of conception or right after, you'd blow the pattern apart because the frequencies involved, the 12 subharmonics, need time to fill out in the form by using the template that was inherited from both mother and father. So what you really have is part of the mom and part of the dad are growing a shell. The shell has consciousness. It has body consciousness. It has part of the mom's consciousness and part of the dad's consciousness. But it's not an individual yet. It doesn't have its own soul that came in for its own purposes. This is also where you end up. The sins of the father and the mother get passed down to the child because that part of the mother's consciousness and part of the father's consciousness, they get totally embedded in the gene code that starts the body that we integrate into. We take on a part of their miasms or the part of their DNA template that are twisted. This is why so many times the issues that have been in our parents' life that were never resolved, we end up like the next generation, and we take a layer of it off. And then our kids take another layer of it off. So we are literally trying to heal. We heal the generations before us because we take on what's left that's still messed up in their template. Now, there were cycles of growth. Growth through time is the expansion process where that little tiny zygote body, that little tiny thing that's going to be a fetus that's not yet strong enough to hold a soul, begins to expand, which means it begins to draw frequency into itself. It has a Cathara grid at conception. That Cathara grid is inherited from both sides, the mother line and the father line gene code. It has a sentient body consciousness, like a rock does. That is what it is at that point. It can move. It doesn't think in the same way. What it does is think thought patterns coming from mother and father. It actually still has an energy connection to mom and dad. So what the baby thinks before fetal integration is not the baby's thoughts. It's mom and dad's thoughts from the subconscious level. So it becomes a vessel actually for the processing of some of mom and dad's stuff. Now, between the 33rd and 56th day after conception is when there has been enough of the little flashline sequences turned on in that physical structure that a fetal integration can take place. A fetal integration involves the anchoring of chords of frequency from the higher dimensional fields and from the D3 field, down here, D1, 2, 3, into what were the first 8 cells that formed after conception. They are the anchoring rods for 12 currents of frequency. And the first one to come in is the Christos spark, a D12 spark of energy that sets a divine blueprint within that individual. At that point, a silver cord starts to form, a pale silver cord that literally runs through the biofields and connects you to your D12 Maharic Shield template. The Maharic Shield manifests below your feet, but the silver cord looks like it goes up through the universe because it does in the spatial relationships with the hologram. Once that happens, that is fetal integration. That means somebody decided they want to live in that body. Somebody's going to inhabit that baby body. It's going to become a person. If fetal integration doesn't take place, after a time, it will become a miscarriage. And that doesn't mean that a baby died. What it means is that there was something in that particular vessel or agreements that were made that maybe there was a person who wanted to come in to that, but maybe there was an arrangement made with the parent that this was not the right time.
I think y'all better pay attention to what's going on, because that volcano that erupted in Ethiopia hasn't erupted in 12,000 years. That's not supposed to happen. That volcano that erupted hasn't erupted since anybody on this earth lived on this earth. Mind you, this volcano just erupted out of the blue. So you telling me after 12,000 years, this randomly erupted? Does that make sense to you? Villages completely dark. Numerous animals died. Ash almost 10 miles into the air. Mind you, this volcano is about 500 feet all the way up into the sky. This is the same volcano that erupted before the end of the Ice Age. This is the same volcano that erupted before. You ain't just say what I just said, right? Mind you, 40 other volcanoes erupted simultaneously. Now jump down that rabbit hole. What just happened in Europe? That volcano that was in Europe, that did too. The earth is definitely giving signs right now, and those signs do not look good. And I heard somebody mention this, but do you remember what the prophet said about fire rising near the Red Sea? Where's Ethiopia? I see everybody worrying about what technology gonna do, but you gotta remember this. There were civilizations that lived before us, and they didn't have the technology we had, but it seems like they knew way more than what we did. And if those prophecies are true, this volcano erupting, it's not a good thing at all. Pay attention.
Age of disclosure. Let's talk shop. So I just finished watching it, and here is my honest take. First off, the film is really well done. The cinematography, the pacing of it, the overall production quality, I mean, it is very polished in a way that a lot of UFO documentaries, aren't. The story arc is super solid. It walks you through the core layout of the legacy UAP programs, the secrecy behind them, and how these systems have evolved over the years. If you're someone who's new to this topic, or you've only recently gotten into the UAP conversation, this is actually a very good starting point. Something I appreciated was the fresh faces in it. There are the normal whistleblowers that you've seen, but it's not just them. There are some new voices in there, and that definitely helps widen this discussion. Now, being completely honest, if you've been deep in this topic for years, or if you've done the reading and followed the whistleblowers and the rabbit holes, there aren't any huge bombshells in it. It's more of a high quality overview than a revelation, I'd say. But as a documentary meant to bring people up to speed, it absolutely succeeds. It's clean, it's accessible, and it adds value to the broader disclosure conversation, which we absolutely need. So check it out. I'd recommend seeing it.
And that wraps up today's episode. Thank you so much for sticking it out with me until the very end. If you did enjoy this one, please, well, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and also drop a like. Leave a positive comment too if you want to show some additional support. It really helps. And when you subscribe, make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss the next release. And I definitely want to have you back for our next rabbit hole. But until then, stay safe, stay well, and stay curious. Until next time.